in this episode.
Your routine sets you up to understand what your approach is going to be, and it allows you to be able to be creative when you're in between those pitches. Like an example, Ray Sadler, who played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I was a rookie, and he came up to me. And he's like, "You set your pitchers up?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Are you setting your pitchers up?" And I was like, "Bro, I'm just trying to survive and get a hit. I don't know what the hell you're talking about." He's like, "Watch this. Next at bat, I'm going to set this guy up." What do you mean? He's like, at some point, he's going to give me a pitch, and then I'm going to realize that that's just not his best pitch, and I'm going to swing through it, and then he's going to give it to me later in the at-bat. I watched Sadler the whole game because I wasn't playing that game. He gets a fastball, takes it. Guy throws a slider. He swings over the top of it. Gets another fastball, takes it. Slider again. 400 feet.
3D chess, man.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of The Closing Pitch. My name is Spiker Helms, and this is a show about people, culture, and how to create a winning lifestyle. Dave, I want to play a quick game.
Okay.
First, last, worst, best.
First, last, worst, best.
Yes. I'm going to say a word, a prompt, and then I want you to come up with your first, your last, your worst, and your best. And you'll see where I'm going with this.
I'll give it the old college try.
Give me the old college try. Hitter
So first hitter.
you've ever faced as a pitcher.
Oh, God. I have no idea.
Can't go back.
I mean, that was like back in like 9 years old.
Okay.
How am I supposed to remember? Like
you don't remember your first?
Kenny Smith.
You don't remember what happened?
No.
At
not
all?
at all.
I remember the first at bat I ever took against a live pitcher because that's a big deal when you're like 9 years old, and being terrified beyond belief of like, I was excited about the moment, but I also wanted like a machine or like a dad to throw because I knew I could just crank it. It was just the uncertainty and the not knowing what could potentially happen.
I'm trying to wonder back if it was my church league team or did I start playing at like Kirkwood Athletic Association, a small little local athletic place. Had to be one of those, but I don't remember who or what.
I don't remember the name, but I remember distinctly being like absolutely 100% terrified.
Yeah, never remember that.
No, what was your last batter that you faced?
Last batter would be at, where did I pitch last in college? I think it was at Northern Kentucky, who's now a D1 school. I think I got a save on a Saturday.
My last at bat was in Miami against Stony Brook, and I absolutely tattooed a ball in the last inning because we were up in the game. I think we were up by like 6 runs. I have to look back at the box score, but we needed a leadoff double, and I get up there and I just lace this thing in the opposite gap, and I'm batting left-handed this time. The center fielder was playing pull side gap. Mm-hmm. He chased the damn thing down, and our inning was like just completely ruined. That guy is now in the big leagues.
Which is? Who is he?
I forgot his name.
Okay.
But he's in the big leagues. I know that for sure.
Okay.
But he literally was in the pull side gap, and I sliced it into the actual opposite field gap, and he chased that thing down.
Good center fielder.
What is the worst batter you faced?
So like worst outcome?
Yeah, let's go worst outcome. Yeah.
Well, I had several firsts. My first ever at bat in junior college was a home run I gave up. Mm-hmm. My first loss, my junior season as a closer, I gave up a walk-off grand slam on the road after I struck the guy out 3 times and got no calls. I'm still not bitter.
My worst game was literally striking out 4 times in a row and then coming up my 5th time because we ended up scoring a whole bunch of runs. So my team did really well. Mm-hmm. And this was in the college summer. Mm-hmm. I struck out a fifth time.
That's not the golden sombrero is 4. What's 5?
I have no idea. They give you like a piñata or something, and you get to take it home. But I remember walking to my manager's office, and he goes, "Well, Spike, at least you know that the worst thing that could potentially happen is you have a 6th strikeout when you go up to bat for your lead off at bat the next game."
That's right.
Best.
High school, I had a pretty cool, fun outing where I went up against another big Division I, an arm that you played with, Tim Club.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't play with him.
You didn't play with him most of it?
I played with his little
brother.
Played
with Ryan.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, me and Tim went off, and I think I gave up 1 hit and no runs, and then we bunted across something, and he gave up 2 hits and 1 run, and we won. That was just a fun game, duel against him. He was a really good pitcher. So
the best game I ever had was the same year. I went 5 strikeouts in a row. I ended up going 6 for 6 in a game. So like the
law of averages.
Yeah. So the reason I brought this up is because we're going to be talking about routines and like how your first impression of like going up against something, it's your first time, you're not going to be a seasoned veteran, and it's going to feel very terrifying. It's going to feel a little nerve wracking. And that goes with like jumping into your first high school game, first college game, first professional game. And then your last at bat, or your last time that you come up to actually pitch for the very last time, is like you're going to be so locked in that it becomes super easy. Mm-hmm. And in between all of that, you're going to have your worst moments and you're going to have your best moments. But the thing that keeps you so sane in that time frame is the power of routines. And my routines were borderline. What do you call those things where like you don't step over the line, like you don't step on the line, you have to step over the line? Superstitions. They're borderline superstitious.
There's a lot of superstition to it.
But looking back at the career, it wasn't really superstition. It was me being able to be in a comfortable mindset.
Correct.
An example, and you guys are going to think this is super crazy, but I learned that if you have Jolly Ranchers before like a test, like if you take a math test or anything like that, and you're sucking on this Jolly Rancher, it actually calms your mind down because you end up getting out of your head and you default back to the stuff that you've already learned.
I can see that.
So example would be the same thing, the same exercise that I did with what we did before the podcast was I only gave you 1 prompt. So it's the same thing with the Jolly Rancher. I've given you something that you are just sucking on. It's a prompt. Mm-hmm. And then it clears your mind, and then you start realizing, like start remembering stuff, and you like start triggering. Right?
Yeah.
So in high school, I had Jolly Ranchers, and I would suck on them before I got up to the plate, and then I would spit it in my batting gloves, and I used it. And hold on.
That's gross.
Hold on. And I used them as pine tar. Oh. And I would rub the Jolly Ranchers like this. If you're listening to the audio,
don't try this at home, please.
I rubbed the Jolly Rancher in between my gloves, and then I would throw the Jolly Rancher off to the side. Well, as you would know, that over time it takes a while for those Jolly Ranchers to dissolve.
Go away.
So mid-season, coach goes, "What is that?" And all the guys are like, "Oh, that's Spiker's Jolly Ranchers." And he goes, "What?" "Yeah, that's Spiker's Jolly Ranchers." And he goes, "Why are you doing this?" I was like, "Am I batting 400 or am I batting 400?" And he goes, "You're batting 400. You can stick with the Jolly Ranchers."
Dude, your gloves had to be gross.
Yeah. They had a lot of different flavors on them and everything.
Good gosh.
But every time I walked up, the catcher's like, "Man, I smell apple. I smell grape. I smell strawberry." But
that's a superstition, but that is it's weird how it plays in your mind too, because if you didn't do that,
I'd freak out.
Yeah, 100%.
I would freak out, and it got to a point where your routine inside of a game is that I had to hit off of a tee, and I had to hit all locations before I can move on to BP. If I messed up that routine, it was like my whole
start it over.
Yeah, I had to restart over it and redo everything. But what the point of all of that is that it got me into a mindset to actually do something that was extremely hard. which is hitting a baseball
Sure.
that's coming in and moving and just velocity. If you think about the big name guy that I faced was Sean Manea, who's now with I think he's with the Giants.
I don't remember where he ended up. But
I forgot where he's at.
was with Oakland forever.
Yeah, he was with Oakland, but the guy was awesome. He was an absolute stud. Hated playing against him, envious of him, and I always had to think bigger than what I actually was and play bigger than I actually was against that guy. But the reason I was able to do that was because I set my routine before I even got onto the bus. Like my college routine was I would wake up, go down and get breakfast, sit by myself, don't talk to anybody, and then have a few words with Coach Gutton, and then go up, watch some TV, and then literally get my iPods or my headphones in, and then start playing music, and then I would walk on the bus and talking to nobody.
Sure.
A lot of players, I feel like, are trying to find that routine, and if you're able to find that thing that attaches to you, your mind's going to end up calming down, and it get yourself out of your way. It allows you to it allows your training to take over.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that is probably most evident about routines, and we can give you a million different examples of routines, like your pre-pitch routine as a hitter, your pre-game routine, your in-between innings routine, your routine at practice. I mean, there's a million different ones, but I think one of the main characteristics of having a good routine is the consistency factor that it brings you, where you see guys who kind of get erratic with this game, like, man, they're on cloud nine, they're doing really, really good, and then, whoom, they fall off that mountain, and they're all the way down here, and they just play that huge wave, that tidal wave game throughout their whole career. Well, they're doing different stuff almost every game, every at-bat, every appearance. Like, it's always different, so when you do different things, you don't have a routine, you can expect inconsistent results, right? Because I get that with young players all the time, and we start talking about, okay, so your emotions got, a little high there. You got a little angry there at that situation. Umpire didn't give you a call, and now all of a sudden you're upset. What's your routine? How do you get back to square level? How do you get back to the middle ground, which is where you want to be throughout your career? And we start talking through things, and just even simple breathing routines and simple, why do you think a hitter stares at the middle of his barrel in between every pitch? He centers his focus. He thinks about the pitch approach, anything. But it brings consistency. It's calming. It brings consistency. And it's why you see guys in the major leagues for 162 games do the exact same thing every single pitch. It's because they want to treat every situation the exact same way. They don't want to get up because it's Game 7 of the World Series in a big situation. They want to be calm in that situation. Just like in the middle of summer and it's Game 48 and it's 100 degrees out there. You want to be able to play with that same consistency day in, day out.
When I was playing, I always got Hacker, who was my hitting coach here. He's here in St. Louis, big name, and teaches has taught a lot of guys who have made it to Major League Baseball, but also minor leagues and college. He has a really good resume, and he would always talk to me about approach. And when I was little, I never understood that. Like, he's like, you have to have an approach. And I'd be like, yeah, let's have an approach. And then I'd go up there and I'd have no approach whatsoever. Right. And I would come back. He would ask, what's your approach? And then I would just come up with this like BS thing. I'd be like, well, I was doing this and this and this. And then he was like, well, you have to have an approach. I never understood that until I got to college baseball and got to professional baseball, because an approach is something that is developed over time and playing enough games, where like youth baseball and high school baseball, technically you're still playing and having fun. Like that's the big thing. Like I remember I texted one of our guys this morning and I was like, hey, how's the season going? Are you having fun? He's like, oh, it's good. I'm doing this, and this. I'm like, yeah, but are you having fun? Mm-hmm. When you get to college, it's literally your life. So you start realizing what your tendencies are, and you start realizing what the other pitcher's tendencies are, and your approach could change from pitch to pitch to game to game. And then like high school guys, you could probably you stick with one approach.
Maybe two.
You maybe have two for the whole season. That's not your routine. That is your routine is part of your approach, but it's not your routine. Your routine sets you up to understand what your approach is going to be, and it allows you to be able to be creative when you're in between those pitches. Like an example, Ray Sadler, who played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. I was a rookie, and he came up to me. He's like, "You set your pitchers up?" I was like, "What are you talking about?" It's like, "Are you setting your pitchers up?" I was like, "Bro, I'm just trying to survive and get a hit. I don't know what the hell you're talking about." He's like, "Watch this. Next at bat, I'm going to set this guy up." What do you mean? He's like, at some point, he's going to give me a pitch, and then I'm going to realize that that's just not his best pitch, and I'm going to swing through it, and then he's going to give it to me later in the at bat. I watched Sadler the whole game because I wasn't playing that game. He gets a fastball, takes it. Guy throws a slider. He swings over the top of it. Sets him up for another one because that slider was decent. It was okay. It was like middle and started going out. He gets another fastball, takes it, slider again, 400 feet. He comes back in the dugout and he's like, "That's what you mean by setting up. Now watch this. He's gonna throw me a fastball because I didn't swing at any of those. He's gonna give it to me next pitch. Next at bat, 400 feet. Hits
3D chess, man.
Yeah, hits two bombs in one game." And the reason he was able to do that was because it was an unfair advantage. He was fishing with dynamite.
Yeah.
These pitchers had no experience in Major League Baseball. They're facing a major league hitter who had a cup of coffee. Like he didn't play a lot of games up there, but I mean, he had a really extensive career.
Sure.
And he was trying to teach me is like, your approach can change between pitches based on what that guy is delivering. Now, as a player now, if you're most of our listeners are high school and youth guys, you're not going to have that approach. Like it's really hard.
It takes a lot of time.
Yeah, and pitchers don't know how to really locate, and you can't really bait them in. But in college, you can definitely do that because their craft is a lot better.
Yep.
But what you can do is that you can set on an approach, and then actually build yourself into. Like have your routine build into that approach so you're able to execute every single time that you get up for an at-bat.
Well, something that's coming to mind, and I kind of wrote it down so I didn't forget, but you're talking about a lot of thinking, right? And a lot of adjustments, in-game adjustments, right? And again, for most of our listeners, they understand this feeling where you're in a game and all of a sudden that game starts to speed up real fast. I mean, really fast. Like it's going 1,000,000 miles a minute, and you feel like you can't calm down and just think, right? Routines allow that. If you don't have a routine, you can't be calm. If you can't be calm and slow down the game and slow down the pace of the play, our listeners probably heard that. That guy is really good at slowing things down. If you can't do that, then you can't think and formulate a plan of attack. You can't do it. And that's when, like, I use this example all the time, the snowball effect. I use it with my pitchers. I say, okay, have you ever been on a mound where all of a sudden one bad thing happens and you get upset and you're starting to go a little faster, and then that leads to 2 bad things, and that leads to 4 bad things, and then all of a sudden a crooked number's up there on that scoreboard and you're on the bench and you got pulled from the game. That ever happened? Yep. How fast did that feel like it happened? Like 2 minutes? So how would you combat that next time? Because you could have limited that to 1 mistake, not let it snowball into 8, 10, whatever. How would you combat it? Well, I don't know, Coach. We talk about routines, right? We talk about slowing the game down, breathing, forcing a quick adjustment, okay? Those things matter. And that's how you really don't see in professional baseball those big innings that much, because they're really good at putting a stop to that bleeding. They're really good at kind of halting that negative roller coaster from coming,
because they have that trigger, they have that prompt.
They've seen that trap before.
Yep. So like once they see it, they automatically know, okay, this is what I need to do.
Yeah, they've seen that trap, and I use that analogy all the time. There's traps everywhere in this game. Right around the corner, there's a trap. There's mental trap. They're all out there. So we try to explain that to them and say, you better know that that's coming. You better know that trap is right there, that you stepped in it before, but you can't step in it again. And when you start to feel a certain way and you start to see some certain things happening that have happened in the past, we got to pivot. We got to have a pivot plan. And again, You can't formulate that thought process without the routine to allow you to calmly think about it.
Because that thing can escalate
Super fast.
like extremely fast. I remember high school. I was a pitcher. That's actually what I was going to try to do in college. And we were at the University of Arkansas, and we were playing another St. Louis team, and I couldn't locate a strike. It was like I had the yips, and literally I didn't know what to do. I didn't have a prompt for that. I didn't have a trigger for that.
It probably hadn't really ever happened to you.
No. And I was thinking, oh, the umpire is squeezing me. That was the first thing that came to my head. But it wasn't really the umpire squeezing me. It was my problem. I just didn't know how to recalibrate, get back into the zone. I mean, again, I'm a high school kid playing at the University of Arkansas's field. That's a big deal.
Well, and we can go back into the deep psychology roots of this, but then all of a sudden you start thinking about, oh, I have to be perfect. I have to throw strikes.
Because you think your career's over with after that. Because you're like, man, how many scouts are in the stands?
This next pitch is the most important pitch of my entire life.
Yeah.
And if I don't get it, it's all over.
Well, and you're thinking like, oh, if the scouts, if I mess up this time, the scouts are never going to like me, and they're never going to have me be in consideration of their team. But in reality, like, there's so many players, and there's so many teams that they might forget your name. And in all honesty, like, this is kind of how I view getting recruited, is that you have to make a name for yourself. If you're not, you're just a nobody. And there's benefits to that, and there's disadvantages to that.
Sure.
When you're a nobody, like, if you do bad, like, whatever. But if you do great, then you get on their radar, and now that kind of heats up a little bit, right? Sure. So anyways, I couldn't locate, and I freaked out, and I literally threw a fastball middle just to, like, you know what, I'm just going to have him hit it. The dude took it 400 feet.
Sure. Because again, everything's going so fast, and you weren't able to properly think of the correct adjustment to make, or the correct thought process to instill.
And it was like bad timing at the bad spot, 3-hole guy, just a big dude. And I just finally just gave up, and I was like, you know what? Screw it. Here comes a fastball down the middle.
Yeah. But I mean, think about it this way. Let's say now you've gone through that situation, and a good coach, or you hear a professional athlete talking about their in-between pitch routines, right? And then all of a sudden, you establish a nice breathing routine on the mound, which, by the way, is stupid important. And you understand,
kind of like Jolly Ranchers, right?
Yeah, it's incredible, right? And so, not quite. Well, and you get the ball back. You've just walked a guy. You're not feeling your command today, but you know, I'm one adjustment away from getting it back. And now, okay, I step on the back of the mound, I take a deep breath, and I just try to do one simple difference, just one thing. Maybe it's a mechanical feel thing that you've established throughout your career as a go-to. Maybe it's a mental check. I'm going to get back into an aggressive mindset, not a passive negative mindset, or whatever it might be. And you're going to make one change. You're only able to do that with a routine established. That's the point of routines, is to allow you to clearly think, because you only get 15 seconds. It's not a lot of time to make a really huge adjustment and kind of try to calm yourself back down. But if you have those routines established, you can do that. Now, I'm not guaranteeing that adjustment is the end-all, be-all, fix-all. But in baseball, you just keep trying until you find it. And again, it's only happening if you're calm.
How does a coach establish routines with their team?
So I think that for the most part, players, especially at the ages we deal with the young guys to the older high school dudes, they have no idea of like just a structure. I think a lot of times structure is where you start first. So like, for example, a pregame structure, having something similar. So you get to the field an hour ahead of time. What are you doing the first 15 minutes? What are you doing the next 10 minutes? How are you playing catch? What are you doing for your infield, outfield, defensive pregame? What are you doing in the cage? Do you have a purpose behind what you're doing? That's where I think you build a routine out first, so that they understand, oh, I got to do this. Now I got to do this. Now I have a structure to it. Like, for example, my pregame routine for pitching was everything to me when I was starting. I had an hour and a half routine, and if I wasn't on the dot to like what I'm supposed to be doing at 45 minutes prior to first pitch, it was not a good feeling for me. So I had to stick right to that. And that's kind of why you've seen me now. If like I see a umpire try to start a game early, I'll do anything I can to stop that, just because I cannot fathom what that pitcher's feeling like.
I remember in Indianapolis, it was my first year coaching, and I'm big on routines like you.
Yeah.
And I knew as a positional player, I had to get my defense in and I had to get my hitting in.
Then you feel prepared. You feel ready.
You feel ready. Like, again, taking a ground ball cold is miserable.
Right.
It's not fun.
Right.
And then seeing a fastball for the first time or a curveball for the first time is not fun when it's in game. So I didn't realize the protocol for travel tournaments. Mm-hmm. And so I just thought like games start at the exact time and they don't start early. Mm-hmm. Like if it ends early, then the field just sits. So I'm doing my routine and one of the dads comes up and he goes, and we're only 15 minutes in our routine. And he goes, "Hey, Spike, umpire's ready to go in 15 minutes." And I was like, "That's not happening." And he goes, and the dad's like, "What?" He's like, "That's not happening. You can tell him that." And so he goes back, and then the pitchers were at the field. And when the pitchers came by, he's like, "Hey, the umpire said in 15 minutes." Like, tell him it's not going to happen. The umpire walked all the way to where we were near the cages, which is like, I don't know, what would you say, like a football field?
Yeah.
He's in full gear. He's in full gear. Walked all the way down there, and he's like, "So we're starting in 15 minutes." I was like, "No, we're not. I'm a paying customer. I have paid for this tournament. We are starting on time."
Yeah.
And he goes, "Well, we'll have to talk to the director about that." So he escalated it to the director, and the director didn't come and get me. And he's like, "He's right. They are a paying customer. They're starting on time."
Right.
And we got our routine in, and the other team was super frustrated because they followed the umpire's orders.
Yep.
And they were literally sitting there cold. We come in, the team was better than us. Like, they were way better than us.
Sure.
And we came in and we waxed them. Got 8-0 right
Yep.
off the bat. Just because of that discipline of saying, "No, this is my routine. This is how I'm going to do it. And this is what's going to happen."
Yeah. And I mean, listen, sometimes that's not going to be allowed, and you got to be, okay with being a little uncomfortable, and you got to adjust on the fly. But if we can at all try to avoid it, routines are the way to go with it. Right. And I mean, so I for a young team, for a young player, I would think about structure first. I would think about, do I have a dedicated stretching routine? Do I have a dedicated, how do I throw my bullpens? How do I hit my BP rounds? What do I do off a tee? And by the way, my routines are different than his because we're different people. We're totally different individuals. So there is no box that's going to fit everyone, right? And everybody's a little bit different. Some players like some music. Some players don't. You didn't like to talk to people. Some people are social butterflies. Everybody's a little different, and it's up to you as the player to kind of keep tweaking it a little bit each year as you progress. But start with the structures. Start with, guys, we're always going to do this here. This is our stretching routine. We are not wavering from this. And you are going to take 10 minutes to do this. Here's our pregame throwing routine. We're going to throw with a purpose. We're going to do this today. Here's how you do, your J bands before. This is when you go to you got to be at the bullpen starting pitcher 20 minutes prior to the start of the game because you have to get in X amount of pitches and you have to kind of, everybody feels it out. I remember reading a clip about Roy Halladay about how in his bullpen warming up, he would take the same exact 3 steps after every pitch. He would throw the pitch, rotate into his finish, stay there, wait for the catcher to throw it back to him, be like left foot, left foot, turn.
Oh, that's how I was. Yeah. That's
it's like
crazy.
Legit the exact same 4 steps and positions. And he wanted to feel that rhythm before. And then he'd throw the next pitch, left foot, left foot, turn. And he'd just do it over and over and over again. And I've known guys that have had the same 25 pitches that they throw in sequential order before a game because it makes them feel calm. I've had guys who do it a little different. But again, it's their routine. So I'd start with those structures. I think the timing out of it and the structure side and trying to figure out what's going to get you in the most calm, positive state going into battle.
I think to answer the question too is like coaches create your routine, but players, if you're listening to this, is that you have to create your routine inside of their routine.
Yep.
Which it kind of a multi-layer thing. And if coach doesn't have a routine, guess what? You're free to have whatever routine that you want. But if a coach does have a routine, you have to fit yourself inside of that and understand like, okay, these are the things that get me ready. And I know that coach is trying to structure this out for the team to get ready. So I just got to make sure that I'm in the position to be successful and have a pretty good approach. And this is not just across baseball and softball. This is across different industries too. Like if you're a business person or even like artists have routines that they go through before they actually hit on stage and perform. I forgot who the artist is, but there's actually one person that does a full workout before they get on the stage. Like literally full-fledged, like just get after it.
Well, I've heard that about like
type of
comedians and all kinds of people. I've heard that, and like they have their 30-minute routine before getting on there and talking in front of people, right? So like, there's all it goes across the board, right? And it's just the way you prepare for things.
Yeah, and it's hard when you get into college because you're traveling to your location and trying to figure out how to be successful on a travel day and playing at the same time.
It's really hard.
And also professional baseball where you're traveling through the night to get to your location and then you have to be at the ballpark at noon for your game. A lot of coffee, like downing the coffee and then trying to figure out how to make your body feel at least decently okay to compete. That's where it becomes like you said, a 3D chess game.
Well, and where I think having established and consistent routines pays off, it's not at the start of your seasons. It's at the end. It's at the middle to the end of your seasons. When your body starts getting tired, when your mental focus starts going away, when it becomes increasingly harder to show up feeling great to the field, if you don't have an established structure and routine, you will just tumble fast. I mean fast, because I've seen it a million times. And you hear coaches talk about their younger teams. Oh, they're just worn out. They're this and they're that. And then all of a sudden the coach, here's, in my opinion, here's where you make a mistake, is you start lightening the load a little bit. You start saying, well, instead of showing up an hour before like we always have done, we'll show up 30 minutes before. We'll give you guys a little break. Or no practice this week. Or nothing, that you start changing things in order to that.
That is a slippery slope. I remember doing that from the first year I coached and then the second year, the same team, had the same team. First year, I was very ruthless on that. If we had a doubleheader, we're doing the same exact routine, even though like it's going to be a long day, but we're going to still do our same routine and we're going to have the same intensity. Right. And they crushed. And then 16U year, I'm like, oh, they're older. I fell into that fallacy. They're older. They probably understand it. No, they're 16-year-old boys. Like they don't know. Right. So what I should have done is been like, no, we're sticking to this routine. I don't care about you complaining. If you're complaining, it's probably a good thing. Like I remember hearing a quote from Dick Vermeil that if his players weren't complaining in the middle of the season, he knew that he was doing something wrong, right? And they weren't attacking the day like they should be. But if he started hearing like veterans complain a little bit and getting a little snippy about like, man, coach is making us do this and that, then he knew that he was doing his job right because they were following the protocols, they were following the routines. Yeah,
and by no means am I telling you to keep running them into the ground. I mean, you got to pay attention to fatigue, but you have to keep that structure mindset intact. Because the minute that you allow one thing to go away or to the wayside, it's so easy for players to let all kinds of things go away. And then all of a sudden, again, it's just, like you said, it's a slippery slope, and it's something that can really tumble fast, and then you get in the mindset of, man, I just want to be done. Yeah. And you never want to be there.
Yeah, but those off days are going to help with overexerting yourself, like except if you have like a triple header like on Championship Sunday, like they have to have a break on Monday, but we're talking about like game, like when it's game day and then you have a double header and then the next day you have just a single game, keep the same routine. keep the same thing. Now you could lighten the intensity up
Sure.
where like you're not demanding much from them. Like it's more of a lighter demand.
Think about what you do for their mindset when you do that, though, when you keep the structure.
Oh yeah.
It's like you keep them mentally tougher. It's like, no, we're going to do this because we always do this. And that's what I do, right? And as a player, I keep to now my routines. I keep the promises to myself.
Mm-hmm.
And when I do that, I feel, even though I might be a little tired, I feel way more prepared to go into battle against this team. When I don't, and I feel off, and I haven't done the things that have gotten me here, and all of a sudden I'm like hoping for the best.
Well, I mean, here's an example. Like I've continued the routines into my personal life. So I wake up at 5:30 every morning. And on weekends, if I know that I need to catch up on my sleep, I end up doing the same exact routine, but just at a later hour.
Yeah.
My routine never changes. The timing of it might change, but my routine never changes. Where once I wake up, I go down, make coffee, and I read for about 30 to 40 minutes. And then after that, then I start making breakfast, and then I start typing up some notes, what I learned. And then if I can, I head to the gym. But if not, I catch my workout later in the evening. So like that type of stuff is huge when it comes to players. Like I've just given you one routine out of a daily life. Well, players, what's your routine on game day? What's your routine on a regular day basis to make sure that your body feels good? Because that is the thing that is going to produce the results. Your body is your temple. You've got to make sure that that thing is clean, sound, and fully functional for when you need to use it at the right time.
Right. 100%.
Guys, that's this episode of The Closing Pitch on routines. Please give us a subscribe. I actually started a newsletter called The Rundown.
Pretty
Actually,
cool.
I am enjoying that project, by the way. Like I'm finding these obscure stories that I've never I
Spiker the journalist.
I am. It's good. Like there was one where what was it? It was this girl who ended up throwing 85 miles an hour off the mound. She's 18 years old from Australia. And it triggered me to like go down a rabbit hole. And did you know that the first D1 female athlete stepped onto the field this year?
Yeah, Brown.
Yeah, Brown University.
Yeah,
Olivia.
yeah.
Her
remember
name's
hearing that.
Olivia.
Infielder, right?
I think she's an infielder,
Yeah.
but she's a left-handed stick, I think.
Yeah, she's pretty
And she got a pinch hit at bat.
Cool.
At Brown. I didn't check her stats or anything like that, see how she's doing, but like that's pretty cool.
That was really cool.
So I wouldn't have found if I didn't do this rundown. If you want to subscribe to the run, I'm going to be a shameless plug right now. I'm going to be completely shameless, and I don't care. If you want to subscribe to the rundown, I'll put the link in the show notes, and all you have to do is it's completely free. All you have to do is put your email address in there, and then I give you some prompts so we make sure that the email gets into your inbox. But besides that, then you'll be hooked in, and you'll find what I find, and you might know what we're going to talk about on the closing pitch.
Love it.
So, guys, thank you. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please share this with somebody if you think that you found value in that. And then also give us a 5-star review. That would be awesome. And we will catch you in the next episode.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.